Imagine this. You've got just 24 hours left to live. You know the exact minute your life ends. No more someday. No more, maybe later. What would you do? How would you spend those final, fleeting hours? Today, we're diving into the last day of Lester Bauer, a man who spent over 3 decades on death row, staring down the same fate day after day, until it finally arrived in 2015. His final 24 hours weren't just routine, they were deeply revealing, offering a rare glimpse into how the human mind confronts its own end, and what unfolded will completely reshape the way you think about life and death. Who was Lester Bauer? At 67, Lester Bauer had spent 31 long years behind bars on Texas death row since 1984, awaiting the moment he always knew would come. Convicted of the 1983 murders of 4 men at a remote airplane hangar in Texas, Bauer always maintained one thing: his innocence. Whether you believe him or not, one thing is indisputable. When his final day arrived, Lester Bauer met it with a calm, eerie composure that left everyone around him stunned. Here's something chilling. Less than 3% of death row inmates spend more than 20 years awaiting execution. Bauer was among that rare few who endured a prolonged countdown for over 3 decades. Now imagine this. How does a person prepare themselves mentally for 31 years of knowing the exact ending of their story? The morning of June 3, 2015, 6 a.m. It wasn't just another morning. It was the morning. Guards approached his cell with a different kind of silence. Everyone knew what the day meant. That's when the process began. What most people don't know is this. On execution day, inmates are moved to a special holding cell, just 50 feet from the death chamber. That's all 50 feet, a distance so short, but with a weight that feels like the length of the world. A walk you'll take once, a walk you'll never return from. A final shower, a clean shirt, a quiet mind. Bauer's first request. Nothing dramatic, just a shower and fresh clothes. There's something deeply human about that. When you're facing the end, sometimes all you want is to feel clean, to feel like yourself. 8 a.m., the final meal. Now here's where things become even more revealing. Unlike some inmates who order lavish feasts, lobster tails, steak, exotic desserts, Lester Bauer's final meal was shockingly simple. 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, and a Coke. Nothing more. Just classic comfort food. Compare that to another inmate who ordered 29 different dishes, or the one who chillingly asked for a single olive with the pit still in sight, perhaps, as a final riddle to the world. But Bauer, he ate slowly, calmly, savoring every bite as if he had all the time in the world. Guards watching him said he seemed almost at peace. But how? The psychology of facing death. Psychologists call it death acceptance, a rare mental state where a person comes to fully accept the inevitability of their end. It's not denial, it's not fear, it's something ... deeper, something more still. And Lester Bauer embodied that in his final hours, grace under impossible pressure. Was it the product of 30 years of quiet reflection, or something else entirely? This is more than a story about crime or punishment. It's about the human condition, how we wrestle with mortality, truth, and the ticking clock we all carry inside us. So, ask yourself again, if you knew the hour your time would run out, what would you do with your final 24 hours? Before we go any further, imagine this. A mental state so calm, so clear, that the inevitability of death becomes almost soothing. If that idea fascinates you the way it did us, please hit the like button. It helps support the channel and ensures that these deeply human stories get heard. Also, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell, because trust me, the next story in this series will leave you speechless. Noon. Final arrivals. Last goodbyes. As the clock ticked closer to the end, Lester Bauer received a handful of final visitors. Among them, a journalist who had covered his case for over a decade, his spiritual advisor, and most unexpectedly a few family members. What happened next stunned everyone in the room. Rather than break down or rage against his fate, Bauer spent these final moments comforting them. He told his sister not to cry. He reassured his spiritual advisor that he was ready, and he even thanked the guards for treating him with dignity over the decades. This wasn't performance, it was something deeper, a rare psychological shift. Psychologists call it institutional acceptance. Studies show that nearly 67% of inmates who've spent 20-plus years on death row develop a strange sense of gratitude for, even the smallest acts of kindness. Imagine that. Decades of isolation, and yet still the ability to thank your executioners. Then came the twist. 4 p.m. A glimmer of hope. Just 2 hours before his scheduled execution, Bauer received a surprise phone call. His legal team was filing one final appeal, a last-minute attempt to halt the execution. Anyone else might have clung to it. Anyone else might have begged, cried, or collapsed into despair. But Lester Bauer's response: "I do appreciate everything you've done, but I'm ready to go." Let that sink in. This was a man who had truly let go, not out of surrender, but out of serenity. A guard later said, "In our combined 40 years, we've never seen anything like it." Even when the appeal was rejected shortly after, Bauer seemed almost relieved. There was no more waiting, no more wondering, only acceptance. 6 p.m. The final hour. At 6 p.m. sharp, Bauer was escorted to the final holding room, just one door away from the execution chamber. This is the space where inmates spend their final moments, where time slows to a crawl. The warden arrived to explain the procedure. Bauer listened quietly, asked a few questions, then said something no one expected. "Thank you for making this as easy as possible." There were no dramatic outbursts, no confessions, no pleas for mercy. Instead, Bauer spent his final 30 minutes in meditation and prayer, his breath steady, his mind still. The chaplain would later call it the most peaceful final hour I've ever witnessed. 6:47 p.m. Then, at 6:47 p.m., Lester Bauer was pronounced dead. He maintained his innocence until the very end. He forgave those who had wronged him. He thanked those who had shown him compassion. And he faced death with the kind of grace and calm that most of us can only imagine. There were no complications, no resistance. After 31 years of legal battles, appeals, and waiting, the final chapter closed, exactly as he had lived his final day, quietly, dignified, at peace. Even some of the victims' families said they experienced an unexpected sense of closure, not from vengeance, but from witnessing the dignity with which Bauer faced death. What can we learn? What do Lester Bauer's final 24 hours teach us? Whether you believe he was guilty or not, one thing is undeniable: he chose dignity over despair, serenity over panic. He showed us that even in the face of the unthinkable, the human spirit can choose peace. When we look at the stresses and anxieties we deal with in our daily lives, Bauer's final hours make them seem, well, a little more manageable, don't you think? Your turn. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe that 31 years on death row is cruel and unusual punishment? Or do you think justice was ultimately served? And more importantly, what would you do if you only had 24 hours left to live? Drop your answers in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. We have more powerful stories coming your way, stories that reveal the deepest truths about human nature.